Welcome everyone. This is Dr. Meskó, the medical futurist, and as usual, hopefully you can hear me and see me well enough. We have a very special Q&A live today because we have an amazing guest, Dr. Rafael Grossmann. Just a few words before that, for those who don't know me or the medical futurist, I'm a professional futurist, the medical futurist with a medical background, and my job is to provide context about futuristic technologies, the near future of medicine and healthcare, and always the context, why those technological breakthroughs, announcements, reports, or studies matter. And in these days, I very much focus on the role artificial intelligence will play in all that. At the Medical Futurist, I'm lucky enough to have a team, a dedicated team of 15 individuals supporting this mission. Basically doing all the videos, the ebooks, the articles, the social media analysis on a range that we publish on a range of channels. And we try to bring you free content across all these social media channels from YouTube to Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and even TikTok these days. Usually in these live Q&A sessions, I answer your questions about all things technological, digital health, artificial intelligence, health sensors, anything that you are interested in. And from every 2-3 months, we have a special guest. And a special guest we have for you today is really special, not just because I'm lucky enough to have known him for more than a decade now, but because he's the world's expert, I think the best expert about mixed, augmented, and virtual reality technologies. It's not just that he likes to talk about these things in his keynotes when he travels the world, literally globally and worldwide. He also gives lectures about this, but he has been there. He has been in this space for more than a decade. He's seen the whole evolution. And even if I remember back then when we met for the first time at the conference in Paris or at the FutureMed event in California, even then he used to talk about all these VR, AR, MR devices and how amazing those could be. And in like 2 minutes, you will meet Rafael yourself if you haven't met him already in his social media channels. He's an amazing individual, a physician, a surgeon, an educator, a keynote speaker, and the expert when it comes to VA and MR technologies in medicine and healthcare. Shall I hype him even more for you? I guess I shouldn't. But before I do that, before I introduce you to him, I always want to ask you something. So, to get to know you basically in the very first minutes of the streams. So now I would love to know how much you think you know about virtual, augmented, and mixed reality technologies in healthcare between 1 and 10. 1 would mean you know absolutely nothing. You've never even heard about these things. And 10 would mean you are a world-class expert about these technologies. So you could just write a number between 1 and 10 in the chat. We could get a better picture about who are watching the live Q&A right now. 4. Hi, Harvey Castro. I hate to admit, 4 is very good. 4 is a great start. That's what we will work on today. All right. Good morning from Indiana. Hi, guys. It's so great to see Mexico City. It's great to see that you're coming from all over the world as usual. Paolo Rovatti, nice to meet you again on the stream. 4. Okay. Kelly says 3. Alexandru 8. Good for you. Joseph Meiser 5. Okay. It's quite a diverse audience for now. So we have 4, 4, 3, 8, 5, 5 just about VR in general. Good point, Renato Gonzalez, that maybe personally I have quite a good knowledge about VR. Maybe AR, but in mixed reality, I'm kind of lost. So I will have my own questions for Rafael in this very stream. Okay, Lufti has a 6 and an 8. All right, we have quite a diverse audience from 3 until 8. I think it's like a Gaussian curve. 6. Okay, guys, keep them coming in. And even more importantly, please keep your questions coming. Because if you don't do that, if you don't ask the world's best expert about mixed, augmented, and virtual reality devices in healthcare, then I will make those who registered on eventbrite.com for a live Q&A ask their questions first. And they sent about 40 questions. So please keep the live questions coming in because you always have the priority. And now, after talking for so many minutes, let me present you my amazing guest, dear Rafael Grossmann. Hi, Rafael.
Hello, Bertrand and audience. It's really a pleasure to be here, my friend. Thanks for your kind words. And it's my honor to be connected with you for so long. We met 14 years ago because we had been online, kind of friends and colleagues. And when we first met in Silicon Valley at FutureMed in 2013, it felt like I already knew you for a few years, and it was the first time we met in real life. So it's really great to see you again, and thanks for the invitation.
And we will never forget when you visited us with your family in Budapest, and we went to a surgical conference. I brought the world's best expert in these technologies to the young surgeons conference at Lake Balaton, one of the best places in Hungary. So yeah, welcome to the show. Until the first question arrives live, I would like to start with one that we received before the event, even the live Q&A event started. And it's quite a strange question to ask. That's why I start with this one. Which cases can you describe for health insurance while using VA and MR technologies, if any? Joseph Meiser asked this question before, who's also on the chat right now.
Yeah, it's a tough question, because health insurances, at least in the US, which is the market I know, and in Latin America, it's a very complex sort of ecosystem, right? I think that once you have validated uses for VR or AR or MR, let's call it XR, right? The combination of the three. Once you have validation for XR, which is coming very quickly, not hundreds, but thousands of articles validating the use in healthcare for education, for diagnostics, and even for therapeutics, and certainly for recovery. Once you do that, then the health insurance starts noticing. And I think that it is very clear that it's going in the right direction. There are technologies like, for example, XR Health, and I'm one of the advisors, by the way. XR Health is a company that for a few years have been doing VR live sessions in VR, and also a sort of a remotely via camera, but also inside the VR immersion with a rehabilitation, with physical therapists. And that is, for a few years now, being built to the healthcare insurance companies. So that's just one example of what is coming. And I think that it'll be like another tool, another therapy, another useful piece to the puzzle of caring for medical patients. So it's going to be like any other thing that we do in medicine.
We described this before the live Q&A started, that it would make sense to describe to our viewers the differences between mixed, augmented, and virtual reality. Could you please do that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So virtual reality is a more common one. Virtual reality, it's a computer-generated environment. Everything is digital, and you have a headset, and you are completely isolated from the real world, and that a computer-generated system or immersion, you're interact with it. So that is virtual reality. So when you do augmented reality, you are generally seeing through a transparent headset. You're seeing the real world. Could be a phone, could be a tablet, could be a headset, and that real world has digital projections around you, in the space around you, as if the space around you is your computer screen, in a way. And when that is AR, when you interact with that data around you, and when the data interacts with the real environment. Let's say you have a Pokemon that sits on a real table, and you can see that that is mixed reality. So that is more or less the basic definitions. They, mix and sort of sometimes are confused, especially AR and mixed reality. The generic term seems to be XR, extended realities, which in medicine, and this is a term coined by the FDA, the MXR is XR in medicine. So it's very commonly being used these days.
Thank you for that. I think it's clear to everyone. And now the first live questions keep coming in. The first one was asked by Carol Flores. What are the applications of augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality in healthcare? That's quite a broad question to ask. If we just mention like one example per each device type, I think it would be very useful.
Yeah, I usually classify them grossly in education or training. You have, for example, a Fundamental VR is one of the companies that is creating a total immersion scenarios where you can be in the operating room in VR completely. You are in the operating room, all digitally created, and then you're interacting with the different pieces of, let's say, an equipment, robotic surgery, and you learn how to set up or use the robotic arm to perform robotic assisted surgery. Or you are in a patient, let's say a knee, the knee of a patient, very realistic looking, and you are interacting with the different instruments or parts, and you're doing an operation over and over and over, like you're doing a simulation. In AR, for example, you have renderings of the images, right? You have images of, let's say, a 3D image of a tomography of the brain, and you are actually in 3D in the real environment through a clear glass, like for example, the Magic Leap 2. You are seeing that floating in front of you, and you're interacting then with that image, and you are able to create, let's say, a mental map before you attack a brain tumor, for example, being a surgeon or a patient, understanding what the surgeon is going to do in a much better way. So you are making that consent, the informed consent that the patient gets. You're finally getting the patients to understand what you're talking about by having them really see what you're talking about, not in pen or paper, not in a 2D screen, but actually in a 3D sort of rendering using augmented or a mixed reality. You even go to therapeutics, where you have, for example, also a Fundamental VR, or you have a Apocular, a German company. You have a Rescue Technologies, a Polish company, who are really heading the therapeutics in XR. In the OR, you can actually guide yourself better using, again, a transparent XR or MR headset, and you're seeing the image, and you're superimposing that image to, let's say, the spinal column, and you're actually doing a punction or a perforation of tissue, but you're seeing that in digital and in real. So those are three basic examples of what's existing and what is coming. The obvious example that I didn't mention in VR, which is pretty common these days, and Brennan Spiegel at Cedar Sinai is spearheading this for years now, where they are treating patients, all sorts of patients, for post-operative anxiety, post-operative pain, PTSD. They are treating patients with VR immersions. It's like a VR pharmacy of sorts. That is the most classic example that has been validated in thousands of papers, and is something that a lot of people from the U.S., in California mostly, Skip Ritz or Brennan Spiegel, to the Netherlands and France and Europe and all over the place. So it's something that is becoming real and is becoming more and more a common day, a daily type of therapy that we're seeing more and more.
Thank you for that, Rafael. Still, the live questions keep coming in, so we can't even switch back to the Eventbrite website's pre-recorded questions. Here's the next one from SF. Are the current VR/AR headsets ready for mainstream surgical procedures? Will the comfort level be acceptable for wearing them for long procedural times? It's a good question.
Absolutely. That's a great question. The technology is evolving exponentially, right? Not just the speed, not just the smaller size, the ergonomics, the human-centered design of the headsets. The headsets, this is the Magic Leap 2, like I told you before. This is something that is much better than the first one, which was very good. And you have the HoloLens 2, and you have other headsets that are there. In the future, I think the headset is not going to be really the limiting factor. You're going to have, like you have a million of smartphones, you're going to have probably several headsets, and it's really about the software and the capabilities. They are lighter, they're faster. Most of them, they don't need to be sterile or they don't need to be able to be sterilized or disinfected, because it's like me using my regular glasses in the operating room. The glasses don't interact with the patient, so that is a common misconception. Oh, how do you sterilize those? No, unless you touch the patient, you're inside the patient, you don't have to have them. The battery life is much better. The connectivity is more secure. So really, we're becoming now going to a point where the headsets are just plug and play type of instruments in the operating room in many places and growing very, very fast.
I'm sorry for the really bad question here, but have you ever tried to wear that headset on the beach during the summer? It looks kind of cool. Just
You know,
joking, of course.
I have wear them outside, not at the beach, but for example, in the Northeast where I live, it's a lot of snow, and when it's really bright with snow, the brightness, outdoor brightness, is not really a very good
Oh.
combination with the current headsets. Although they're getting much better, the new Magic Leap 2, the HoloLens 2, and some of the more sort of user-friendly devices work better outdoors. So that's going to be. You have headsets that are becoming very almost like regular glasses. This is the Vuzix Blade, for example, right? The Blade 2. And this is like a regular headset that you can wear outside and get, augmented reality directions, or you can listen to music, you can take pictures or videos. This is a more sort of an enterprise. This is the A3 from Lenovo. And this is a little bit bulkier, but still very good user factor, user friendly. This
It's
is
very
something that we're
cyberpunk,
exploring.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can use this device instead of a computer screen, let's say, to round on inpatients in the hospital and access the EMR. That's currently the topic of my capstone in a master's I'm completing at Cedars-Sinai. It's going to be indoors, outdoors. I think that in the very clear future, common future, is going to be something that won't be an issue at all.
Understandable, understandable. Next, there's just a comment from Scott Brown about the health insurance question you answered. That a couple of considerations could be like contact center reps and empathy training. Maybe the devices could be used for that. Alexandru Gradinaru has a question here. What is your opinion on the use of AR XR smart glasses with camera and mic to assist practitioners during encounters, like record, transcribe, scan skin, medical images, suggest diagnostic treatment, etc.?
That is, my opinion is very, very forward. I absolutely think that the headset and the capabilities of the headset, or the capabilities of this smart computer in front of your eyes, it's really limited by our imagination. If you can use, instead of a telemedicine screen, right, connecting like we are connecting right now, if I could, let's say that you had a question, or let's say I want to learn what you do, and you could have a headset showing me your perspective, or I can have a headset showing you my perspective, and we could both be learning and teaching, right, without any geographic boundaries. Remember when I used Google Glass, when we met in 2013, I met Babak Parviz, the inventor of Google Glass, and a few months later I had Google Glass in the operating room, and I performed the first operation with Google Glass, a live operation with Google Glass back then. And what I did was very simple. I just had the idea, and I didn't want to make it very complicated, or I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. But what I did is I streamed my perspective of my view of me operating to a couple of students who were sitting in the next room. Rather than them seeing behind my shoulders what I was trying to do, they were connected with me as if they were inside me, with my perspective, answering questions, asking questions, or also looking at the specific point of focus of my operation. So yeah, you can use this for inpatient visits, outpatient visits, inpatient, outpatient consultations, telemedicine, home care. Really, there is no limit to what we can use the live streaming capabilities. And the security of this connection is now something that is, you start there. Without security, without protecting the connection and the patient health information, right? Especially, Europe and the US were very very emphatic about this. Now, it's not an issue. In the past, it was an issue because some of the connections were not as strong. But now, this is the first line of design. The security of the connection, which protects the private information.
What I've been thinking about is that, like, you're in the US, we are based in Europe, I'm based in Europe. If I start using an AR-based smart glasses in a medical practice, and my patient will be fine with that because I can I can do my job in a better way, in a more efficient way. I can spend more eye contact time with my patient. But the way the smart glasses would record audio, video, or transcribe anything we are discussing onto an American server, I think that would go against GDPR rules, which are the most important
Yep.
privacy data rules in Europe. So if I'm like a surgeon in Europe and I would like to use AR in my practice to make my job more efficient, do you think there are these privacy-based legal obstacles that would not allow them to start using such technologies?
I think, without being an engineer or an IT expert, right? This had been a concern more in the past. Nowadays, you have companies that actually create local servers so that the connection doesn't leave or they use cloud services that are, many of them use AWS, right? Amazon. So it's something that is not so important right now because everyone knows that without checking that box, no one is going to look at your technology. And there are many examples where you have had transoceanic connection, global connections, doing live procedures and tele-mentoring or teleconsulting in a very, very secure way that is compatible with FDA and GPD regulations, I believe.
It's good to know that they have these in place. Thank you for that. Alberto Parada had this question. Do you know some applications or tools in medical education, supervision, tutoring?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, many of the headsets have already compatible applications that allow you to teach someone or to learn from someone doing procedures or basic procedures or basic anatomical exams. For example, there's something called Gig XR, right? GIGXR. Gig XR is a fantastic XR or mixed reality application where you could have the students anywhere in the world wearing the headset, right? Or even without a headset that is an AR headset, but even with a screen, a smart screen, a smart phone or smart tablet, and you can guide the students towards how to do semiology, basic patient interviewing or examining the chest or dealing with a patient who is a dyspneic, right, with a shortness of breath. And you have a simulated environment where everything appears to be as if you were in the hospital. This is the classic example of mixed reality. And then you can teach your students remotely how to deal with a particular pathology, for example. That is one application that you have Animaris, right, from Germany. Animaris has renderings of, let's say, the heart or the lungs or the kidney, and you can have multiple players, up to 8, in any screen, either AR or XR, or MR, and you have them learning about the heart, and you can annotate on the heart and go inside the heart in Budapest, and the student is in New England, and the other one is in France, and the other one is in Latin America, and you have them all playing with the same rendering of the heart in 3D live, annotating and asking, learning, teaching. It is something that has been around for a few years already. So that is another one of my favorite ones.
Thank you for that.
Animaris from Inside
I just
Heart.
shared the link that you mentioned in the chat, and I also showed a video to them, while you're describing that these technologies, people can see what these actually look like. Renato Gonzalez had this other good question. Are there any open to public software for AR, VR, MR for medical students or bioengineering science students? Good question.
Open, do they mean that they can code on top of the application, or open that it's free?
I think he meant open access.
I'm pretty sure that they are. I couldn't obviously. I don't have a list. All these applications that I mentioned, especially, for example, Animaris, there are apps that you can download in your phone, and they're either free or 99 cents. And I know that there is tremendous amount of content out there. GitHub, you go there and you find people who who have applications that might not be so well known because they're not commercialized or public, and then you can get into those and start coding. You have, for example, the software, the operating system that Magic Leap 2 has now. It's also, in a way, sort of open access where you can build on that. But I wouldn't know. I mean, there are probably so many out there that people is sharing in platforms like GitHub that I'm not familiar with.
I would assume that based on this, they are not open access per definition of open access, but they are free and can be built upon. Yeah. All right then. Michael Bidu had this question. Do you have any idea of what percentage of brain surgeons, other kind of surgeons in the world or the US are using VR, AR, MXR to improve their skills and performance? Like 0.0001 is a good estimation.
Yeah, I couldn't really answer that. It'd be very just a self-made answer that is probably not accurate. Imagine, I don't even know how many brain surgeons are there in the world, but I do know that more and more in places that you wouldn't think of, there are surgeons using XR for training, using XR for diagnostics, and even more so lately for therapeutics. From Latin America to Europe to Asia to North America, this is happening, and it's just growing in a, I would say, exponential number, because the platforms are better, are more accessible, and the word is out. And when you can do something in a better way using technology in a smart way, I think that is something that just immediately, clicks in. And many of the big healthcare systems are adopting, at least in the US, are adopting these technologies. I was recently at LEAP, a conference in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and the amount of progress that I saw there, the amount of progress that they're doing actually in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I was recently in Israel, and the amount of stuff that is happening there, it's just unbelievable. And I met people, for example, from Singapore, from the National University of Singapore, National University Health Systems. What they're doing in the operating room with HoloLens 2 is just unbelievable. It's like you would think 10 years away, but no, they're doing it already, and they have been doing it for the last several months. So we are really going very, very fast.
Michael Bidu just had a comment that apparently there are 49,940 neurosurgeons in the world. So what percentage, Rafael, you must give a number. What percentage do you think of those neurosurgeons would use any kind of XR devices? I mean, really, right? Yeah. 0.01.
I would say that under one digit, yeah. Yeah. I would say that it's very, very few. Definitely 1%. A decimal, a couple of decimals, yeah.
Yeah. Let's be very optimistic here. 1%. At least once in their lives had the chance to use an XR technology, XR-based device. All right. Paolo Rovatti, who is quite a regular guest here, has a question. Are you doing okay, by the way, Rafael? Is it okay that I just keep pushing the question towards you? What about the usage of MR for chronic patients being treated at home, like patients living in remote locations, except for the most evident one related to education and training?
Yeah, that's a great use. And I think that, again, it's about using the technology in a smart way to connect and to communicate. I think that home care is one of those areas in healthcare that are very difficult to do. And it's going to just get worse because the deficit of home care providers is only growing, in a very accelerated fashion. And we're all getting older. So it's not going to get any better from the other side of the equation, right? So I think that there are platforms out there. For example, I mentioned XR Health, that is basically home care, and they're using a VR, and they're using very soon a MR to treat and follow patients at home. So I think that is a very natural sort of evolution of the use of the platform, going not just from the hospital, but at the home care and beyond. It's something that
is this the one, right?
Becoming common. And
XR Health.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. XR Health, and it is like I said, it is insurance billable, reimbursed, which is good for the patients and for the company.
All right. Just one question while I stop for a second answering the other questions live. You've had some work with Magic Leap, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What can you tell us about Magic Leap? One of the unicorns on the sky of the whole, not digital health, not healthcare, but on the whole technological sky, technological universe. What about Magic Leap? Where are they at the moment? Will we see something like a product coming out soon?
Well, Magic, I started with Magic Leap, but connected with them in the days of the founder, Ronnie Abovitz, with the Magic Leap One, and I sort of became an advisor for them. And, I thought the product had incredible praises and, a lot of money behind it. And I thought it was a great product. I think it's still a great product. They came up with really a revolutionary tool along with the HoloLens at the time. And, and then, I don't know exactly what happened, obviously, but it's always about the perception of the public and the press in regards to the product. And they had a hiatus, kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, where they sort of switched gears and they focused on the enterprise. And a Magic Leap 2, which is the device that I've been showing, right? This device is really a beauty. This is the latest device that just came out only a few months ago. And the Magic Leap 2 is lighter. It's a different design. I wish I would have brought the Magic Leap 1 with me, but it's powered by a side computer, which allows this to be very light,
Okay.
and the battery life is good. The field of view is slightly better.
It's
It's
like a
really a
Walkman,
great
isn't it?
attention.
The side, I'm sorry,
What's
the
that?
side computer. It's like a Walkman in the 1980s and 90s. It looks like a
Correct, but it's a
Walkman.
it's a powerful Walkman, though.
You know people what Walkmans are, right? I mean, even the millennials, Walkmans.
Yeah, they don't know what that is.
Let me just, I have to show to people what a Walkman is. Come on, guys. Walkman.
Yeah,
This stuff
yeah.
we had 30
But
years
but
ago.
obviously, yeah, obviously
I'm
this
sorry
is
for
is a very
interrupting.
powerful computer, right? That allows the Magic Leap to be very light and very user friendly, very ergonomic. And I tell you, I'm so happy. The Magic Leap is one of those devices that you can see through, but you can also dim the surroundings, and you can enter a virtual reality, a almost total immersive experience with just the touch of a button. Or now they also came back with gestures, where you have hand recognition rather than a controller, which was the main difference between Magic Leap and HoloLens. Now the new update on Magic Leap allows you to have hand gestures recognition. So it's just going very, very fast.
Do you have a VR device at home, by the way?
I do. I do have a few devices at home, and
Please
and
tell me,
the latest.
what kind of apps or games do you use or play on the VR device at home?
Well, I'm not much of a game player, you know. I just use a lot of applications that they send me to try, or prototypes. I think that for example, my to go VR device, like, for my personal use, is the Quest Pro. I think it's a fantastic device. I do have a Pico device as well. I have a HTC device as well. Many of them that they have been sent to me to try different applications related to healthcare or digital health. But the Quest Pro is a very user friendly, is a very nice ergonomic device that has hundreds and hundreds of applications, from games to meditation, to Tai Chi. I've been doing some Tai Chi in VR. Some of the applications for exercising, supernatural. It's just unbelievable. You are in a desert or in the Arctic, and you're exercising in real life, in real time, and you're being monitored, and you can check your heart rate, and it's just unbelievable the progress that we have made since the Oculus, the first Oculus was shown just a few years ago, right? And at the CES conference, and then a couple of years later, the Meta or Facebook bought the platform for almost $2 billion to this 20-some-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
So we have gone very, very far.
Well, in the meantime, if in the chat anyone has a favorite VR application or especially game at home, please let us know. I use Walkabout Mini Golf VR every other day. I simply love that game to hell. So, during the time, Giulia Mezzanotte had this question for you. Going beyond education and training applications, what is your opinion on VR XR to deliver therapy? For example, developing specific VR experiences for patients to treat anxiety, depression, etc.
Well, my opinion, that's a great question, Julie. That is very, very positive. I've been involved with the therapy aspect of VR for a number of years. And, I'm part of a group, with Denise Silver in France, the VR for Health, which curates a lot of the VR therapies out there. And of course, my good friend Brennan Spiegel and Omer Liran at Cedar Sinai, they have basically the center for VR therapy there. And they actually have a cart in the hospital that they bring around to patients to treat chronic pain. They're doing a study right now to treat chronic pain, and also it's been clear that for acute pain and perioperative pain, for meditation, for anxiety, for depression, there are, again, not hundreds but thousands of studies out there that prove that VR is a sometimes better even therapy than pharmacology to treat these patients. And this goes back several years. So that is probably the more solid use of VR in healthcare today.
Thank you, Rafael. Michael Bidu has some nice things to say to you. That Dr. Grossmann is a fantastic leader, supporter, and practitioner of the value of VR, AR, XR, and MR for the benefit of patients, providers, and payers. The question is how to accelerate adoption of these technologies.
Thank you for your comments, Michael. It's great to see that you're joining. This that we are doing now is one of the best ways to accelerate. It's about educating people. It's about educating the public, not the regulators only, or the legislators, or the administrators, or the physicians, or the nurses only, but the patients, the general public, where you start talking about this, and this will accelerate the patients asking for this. I saw this Medical Futurist Institute podcast, and I heard about this, and how come I'm being given these pills, and how can we try VR for my depression, for example? And I think that this way, educating the public is the best way to really accelerate the adoption and hence the development of new therapies. I think that this is the best way to do it.
Thank you for that. Hector Souza, thank you for the support for the channel. And your question is, what about animal care use? Any news about that? VR for dogs? I haven't seen anything like that, but maybe you have.
Well, I have actually seen it, and it's kind of I've seen
I have to do a search in the meantime. I'm
uses.
sorry, I have to do a search.
Yeah, articles.
See a video.
Yeah,
Come
and you
on.
have there are several pictures out there of dogs with VR headsets, and I'm not sure about that. I mean, I don't think that that's something that we could really quantify that well,
There's
but
a
I'm pretty
monkey, as
sure
you can
that
see, but I guess it's not part of animal care. There is an Oculus
yeah,
gear on a dog. Okay, I'm not sure
yeah,
what the purpose could be, and that's certainly not
yeah,
evidence-based. Okay, that's certainly not. Plus,
correct,
the video's
correct.
title is "Animals and Grandmas Trying VR." So I think our family can conclude that there are no evidence-based animal cases for XR devices. But I'm sorry, I had to check it out in
No,
video.
but yeah. No, but I'm pretty sure that there are studies, especially with with monkeys, or where maybe VR headsets. I mean, you can almost test this in a better fashion that you could with a dog, or with, right. So I think that there are probably not studies about the use, but maybe they have been used to develop technologies, I would think. But again, that's a great question.
Okay, question. And thank you guys for sharing your favorite games. Beat Saber. You play all these, but Tai Chi, I will have
Yeah,
to try out Tai Chi today. I mean, doing Tai Chi in VR, man, I learned something
yeah,
definitely. Not just many other things, but I will try Tai Chi today. Thank you for the recommendations. All
try
right.
it. And
Uh,
supernatural.
yes, 92R had a question. What are the other legal requirements for the use of VR, AR, MXR? Now we have all these letters all around in every combination. So guys, just XR in XR in healthcare besides data protection. It's a good question.
Yeah, obviously for healthcare, data protection is paramount, right? Nothing's going to happen there unless you have that compliance. But there are also different regulations in regards to the age of you have every headset. I think it still tells you, 13 years of younger you shouldn't use. I don't know where that comes from, or some of the old data is 13 years of age is sort of the cutoff. Patients who have seizure disorders, patients who have vertigo. So there are many things out there that could be placed into part of the warnings or the regulation. But as far as I know, there are no specific regulations in regards to XR headsets in healthcare other than privacy, in addition to the regular, technology type regulation where you buy a smartphone and you'll have the warning signs in regards to electromagnetic radiation and different things like that. But I don't know of, obviously every time you're doing anything in healthcare, it's not just data protection, right? You have to make sure that you comply with FDA regulations in regards to the medical use of the device. If you're doing any sort of obviously a study that involves patients, then you have to, or involve not even patients only, a subject, human subjects. You need to comply with Helsinki regulations. You need to comply with the proper ethics and IRB sort of clearance before you do anything like that. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Understandable. Renato Gonzalez had this question: is there any feature in VR systems where patients with needs of translator can communicate without losing their message in the process of translation? Common case in the US.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen a few. Trying to think of the names, but since the day of Google Glass back in 2013, there are software applications where you have sort of instantaneous, almost translation of not just printed words, but also of sound, of text. So 3 years ago, we had a big conference where they have HoloLens and the Microsoft platform being used to live translate into Mandarin Chinese language, live translate English in a live conference. This is about 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm pretty sure that's much better right now, and I'm pretty sure there are many applications right now that are optimized, and we've come to an era where you have Google Translate is very much instantaneous. So yeah.
Okay. Andre Darmon from Paris. Bonjour. Where and when do you think physicians could find time to be educated and handle all these great VR, AR, MR, XR technologies?
Well, time management is a gift, I guess, and sometimes a privilege to have enough time to do this stuff. I'm a full-time trauma surgeon, and education is another passion of mine. So we have students and residents, but you find time to do this stuff, and everything is out there, right, in the right sites. If you go to the site for the Institute of Medical Futurists, you get all this curated information. If you go to VR for Health, you get all this curated information. There are many conferences out there. Almost every month or two, there's a conference on AR or VR or XR, with or without the healthcare flavor, where people can learn at a distance or presentially about this technology. So right now there's really no excuse. You just open the internet and there's going to be hundreds of articles, new ones almost every day, talking about this, and it's just a matter of wanting to deep dive into the topic and learn and connect. It's so easy to connect. I'm in Twitter, I'm in LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect and share the best info that I get or share is through social media like LinkedIn and Twitter. And you mentioned of many other. I don't have enough time to go to other platforms like Instagram or TikTok or even Facebook, but there is tons of information out there that you don't need too much time to really get good info from.
That's why we are here, literally, to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Uriah Sigal had this very interesting question. What should healthcare services look for when searching to innovate with new technologies? How to choose between AR, VR companies? Are there areas in AR, VR that are lacking sufficient evidence? How do you differentiate between them? It's a very thoughtful question.
Yeah, very great question. I think that again, it's just a matter of first of all, the healthcare system has to be wanting to do this, and more and more people want to do this because from education to diagnostics to treatment, it is becoming a little bit of a trend. And just like, for example, robotic assisted surgery, right? 10, 15, 20 years ago started to become a trend. And now if you want a hospital that is sort of recognized and top notch, then you want to be a hospital that offers a robotic assisted surgery. The same thing with this type of technologies. Hospitals are looking into proven technologies. I always tell the companies that I advise or consult with, I tell them, validation is the key. Unless you have validated proof of concept ideas or techniques, then no one is going to look at you. Once you have validation, once you're published and there's real data, then the systems, the hospital health systems, they're going to start looking your direction and then engage with you to try the platforms. So there are many out there, and only the ones that have shown validation studies. I keep coming back to XR Health, which is a great company in this regard, but companies like RSQ Technologies, companies like Apocular, they are developing tools that are now validated in some degree to diagnose and now to even treat use during treatment, during live surgery, for example. And I think that's just a matter of time. And like any other technology, the hospital have a committee. The committee chooses within the hospital. I think it's always good to have a champion clinician, right? To spearhead not the eventual adoption of something, but the bringing that to the surface where you show the C-suite people, this is happening, we need to do this is real, this is validated, we're going to fall behind, let's do it. So I think that that is sort of the way, like any other technologies, convince the hospitals and the hospital administrators to really engage in this type of movement.
So like someone who believes in the technology enough based on evidence that they can help break down the walls of adoption. That's I guess that's what champion clinicians could be in that sense. D-Zone28, it's a very weird name, asked the question, are there examples of imaging being incorporated into XR applications for radiologists, physician use?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can have any DICOM image. DICOM meaning the technical term for any image that is digital, right? Barely, it's very small number of people well, I don't know the number and the percentage, but most of the world, unless you are in a very in a zone of very limited socioeconomic income, most of the world doesn't use the typical acetate X-ray images that we saw in the past. But when you are into digital images, which is most of the developed world, I would say, any of those images that are digital in the 2D screen can be in matter of seconds digitized to a headset. And you can see images on a HoloLens or in a Magic Leap, or a medical holodeck is a great example of this. Medical holodeck, you bring any DICOM image from you do a CAT scan on a patient, and as fast as it goes to the application on the laptop or in the PC, you can go to your HoloLens and you can see that image in 3D. And not with, in the case of a tomography, for example, not on an axial or coronal or sagittal, but in any angle that you can enter that image in any angle that you want. So that is a dream sort of come true for me in a way. Now it's not completely globally adopted, but in the future, very soon, within 3 to 5 years, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have headsets, right, that allow us to, after you do a CAT scan in the trauma bay, you're going to be able to then, instead of sitting in the computer and logging in and finding the images, you're going to be able to see the images right there in the trauma bay. And that would be really something that will improve, enhance, augment patient care efficiency, cost savings tremendously, and decrease the errors as well.
Wow, Rafael, we are doing so great here. And as you're getting to the last minutes of the stream, now we have the biggest amount of questions. And I want to ask you 4 questions before we finish. So let's try to go through all these or run through all these questions, the remaining ones. Renato Gonzalez had this question. Is there any network issue with XR? For example, meeting with patients over the network, does the bandwidth tolerate it and such?
Yeah, well, it depends. Obviously, bandwidth is always an issue. Right here, right now, I was telling you that I'm moving, so I'm in an office space, and the bandwidth's supposed to be excellent, but the connection wasn't that good. So we're using 5G from my phone, and so better and better. The connections are getting better and better, faster and faster, and more globally, universally equitable, distributed as well, all over the world. And you have, the Middle East, you have Africa that have some of the fastest connections and hardwired connectivity in the world, and have had for many years now. So I think that that's less of an issue. And the devices are also evolving to not just use the top faster connection, but any connection. You have technologies like Proximi AR. Good friend of mine, Nadim Hadak, who created Proximi AR to do tele-mentoring in augmented reality. So Proximi AR works with 3G, and they can mentor a surgeon doing surgery in the middle of the jungle in
How
Peru.
do you spell it? Rafael, I would like to show the video of that while you're discussing it. Proxim?
Yeah. Proximie AR. Proximi AR. It's a phenomenon. And it's designed to be used with low bandwidth. So you can still do that, even though the connection speed is not that fast. I don't know if you were able to see it, but it's one of those things that it's pretty amazing where they have gone. I think I put it in the chat.
I will link to that after the live is over, because I couldn't find a recent video of them, but I will link to them.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep on going. What about accountability issues that arise when healthcare professionals use XR tools to deliver treatments to patients? What should a developer take into account? Good question from...
That's a great question. And it's like any technology. You have to have all those I's dotted, right, and T's crossed. You must have a sort of a chain of responsibility established from, is it the surgeon, or in the case of surgical uses, is it the surgeon, is it the surgical team, is it the administrator of the hospital, is it the company, is it the internet connection who is blamed? It's a little bit like AI. Okay, who do you blame? Do you blame if you're driving a car and the car crashes? Is it Tesla? Is it the connectivity? Is it the driver? Is it the person in front of the car? So I think that, like any other tool in healthcare, I don't think that we have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to acknowledge that this applies as well to XR as it does to a robotic assisted device, for example.
Just Michael Bidu said that before we close. He wanted to say that he enjoyed the live Q&A today very much. And it was great to see you, Rafael. But we are not finished yet, because I have a few more questions for Rafael. He's my guest. I want him to answer my questions too. In the meantime, Britney
I'm
Starr.
all yours. I'm all yours, and I have I'm all yours, and I have one or two things that I want to show you as well.
Ooh,
so before we finish.
Okay, then we will make sure to spend enough time with that. How do you get those who are hesitant to use this technology excited and interested? I'm an RN in the USA, and my fellow RNs are not very interested in welcome to the club, and they believe it will be a hindrance. So what would be your advice?
Well, just, attend things like this, connect with people like Dr. Meskó and myself and many others. I'd love to connect with you. If you're in the US, I'm in the US. Again, I'm in Twitter and LinkedIn. I will get you interested, because this is something that you cannot miss. It's like thinking that computers are not useful in healthcare, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Like people said, the laptop will never, click. That the smartphones, I remember looking at people with big brick cell phones, and that person, what does that person think? They need a cell phone or on top, on their pockets all day. And now we have 2 or 3 of these devices in our pockets all day long. So it's just about the perception and the vision and the use. When you see how you can better, for example, interact with the electronic medical record data in front of a patient doing daily rounds for an inpatient nurse. In your case, if that's for me, I'm an inpatient doctor as well. So for me, my capstone project for Cedars-Sinai is bringing the EMR to glasses like this, where instead of pushing a computer on wheels or a laptop or a tablet in the patient's room, rather than being talking to the patient and looking at the computer screen, you can actually connect with the patient and see the patient's data, the data that is important to you as a nurse, the vital signs or the lab results or the orders, where you can input data and orders into the system with a headset like this, or where you can maybe a call for help in a headset like this, or maybe where you can take a picture and send it to the provider, to the physician or the PA or whatnot, so that they can see what you're seeing. All these possibilities are real and they're happening already. So it's just a
Do you
matter
remember
of,
this?
of time.
You made this a few years ago. The evolution
Absolutely.
of technologies. I love that. It was
And we have gone
brilliant.
farther now.
Yeah. Even more. Yeah. So
Yeah, but it's a
before we
pleasure. I love
close,
to connect with her.
as a futurist, I have to ask you. So let's dissect these three technological areas: virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. And let's look into just 3 to 5 years. Like we know now how many millions of customers have purchased VR devices for at home. For 1.5 years, I've been a VR user myself. What do you expect from virtual reality? 1, 2 thoughts about that in the next 3 to 5 years, just VR.
I think that VR is going to, in the next 3 to 5 years, become very, very common in most households in countries that have the socioeconomic capability of doing so, right? More advanced economies, most likely, right? 3 to 5 years, I think that'll be a reality where people is going to do a number of things in VR, especially education. I think education and training in 3 to 5 years is going to really, really be very commonly done in VR. In addition to, we're not going to substitute real training, but in addition to, just like pilots train with simulators nowadays, impossible not to train in a simulator to be a pilot and have a plane full of people in the air. It's going to be the same for many industries, and at home, from meditation to learning new things to dancing to playing sports to doing fitness. I think that VR is going to be a very, very common tool. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. How about augmented reality? Google Glass seemed to break down the walls. It didn't really work out, I think. Maybe it was too early regarding adoption. People were just not ready for that kind of technology. So what about AR specifically? What do you expect from this field in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think AR might probably take a little bit longer for a widespread adoption, but I think that as a tool to bring information to the individual, from products to you are looking to buy a sofa and you want to see how the sofa looks in your room. That is becoming more and more common in many sites, from IKEA to others and many others, to measuring the room dimensions with AR, to learning about the heart, where in med school, rather than having a heart, you can actually have a heart projected in there. You can have many people looking at the heart. The gig XR, for example, that you showed, that is very advanced. I think that in 3 to 5 years, this technology will be sort of embedded into medical school curricula in a way that we can only dream of today. In the industry, how to you have a circuit and you want to see, do I cut the blue or the red cable, that type of thing, where you can have someone looking, and in AR you can have someone help you do a better job and a safer job, but less expensive, and you don't have to travel to demo a new surgical stapler, where you can do it in AR or MR. I think that is going to be very, very common in the industry, and even at home. The applications are even on the phone. AR on the smartphone is very common today for many things. I use it for many things at home.
And how about mixed reality? Maybe HoloLens could lead this field in terms of adoption and lead to like higher usage in medical education and staff training. What do you think about that for the next 3 to 5 years?
I think that certainly for education, especially medical education, HoloLens and Magic Leap too. I think those are the two players. That is going to become very, very common in any medical, any medical school of a developed country or even not so developed, because these tools are really, in a way, I would say, democratizing access. The cost is coming down, and now you realize that you can have, more scope of reach in regards to getting more students to be connected with an expert, with a professor, with a teacher, even from basic education. It doesn't have to be like advanced medical education. I think that's technologies in 3 to 5 years are going to be very, very commonly used technologies, as common as laptops or computers are, and that's a good
Right.
thing, because that's what the technology was created for.
I cannot wait. And my last question to you, when will you play virtual reality table tennis with me? And I warn you, I'll be becoming quite good in recent months. It's called
Well,
table tennis VR. The physics of this game is extraordinary. So when will you play a table tennis game with me in
Well,
VR?
you have never invited me, so if this is an invitation, let's do it as soon as possible. I haven't played table tennis for a long time, but I was pretty good at table tennis. I'd rather play in person,
Okay.
to tell you the truth. Like most things in VR, in person, it's different feeling. But I'd love to play anytime. And that question, that is a great sort of opening to my. I wanted to talk about haptics a little bit. I have
Oh,
these gloves in here. These are the Sense gloves that allow you to feel virtual reality. Haptics is a
oh,
term that
okay.
comes from haptestheis, is a Greek word, and from the time of Aristotle, Epicurus, they thought that a touch, to touch, allows you to perceive the world in a better way. From the times of the Greeks, centuries and centuries ago, we have known that the senses can augment the perception of the world. And from touch with the Sense glove, and this is the old version of the Sense glove. There are many out there,
It's
haptex
called
or the one
Sense.
glove, Sense glove. Yep.
Sense well. Okay, just want to show the video how
Yeah,
it looks
the
like
new
in action.
platform is called the Nova, and I
Uh-huh.
tell you, you can feel the VR as if it was physical. Now, this is
No,
still the beginning, but this is real. In 3 to 5 years, this is going to be adopted in many areas of
oh,
the enterprise, from
so the
medical to
controller is
industry.
attached to it. Okay, okay. That's how.
So you can grab a tool. Fundamental VR, Fundamental Surgery is a company that I am an advisor for them. They have, for example, training simulations for surgery, and you adapt gloves or tools that give you the feedback. So you can have a orthopedic surgery drill in your hand, and you can drill the bone, and you can feel the pressure, you can feel the different density of the tissue. So haptics in VR will, in a way, revolutionize and improve and enhance the actual user experience. That's the reason that I support Fundamental VR, Fundamental Surgery, as one of the companies that do VR simulation. There are many out there. Also VR, Precision OS, Orama VR, they're all excellent. The visuals are excellent. But when you add the touch and more, the OVR is a company here in the US. OVR brings the sense of smell to the virtual reality.
Wow.
So just like you and I playing ping pong in VR, we could be actually baking a pizza and smelling the mushrooms and the tomato sauce because of OVR. So it sounds a little bit silly, but it's not, because these technologies have been proven already and validated that you can improve, for example, a meditative state or the treatment of depression by using the smell of of the real chemical interaction in the brain. in VR. So it is quite amazing. It is quite amazing what they're doing. It's been used also platforms like Skip Rizzo is treating PTSD, in war, veterans, and they are adding the smell of, the burned powder or the burned rubber from an
Wow.
explosion in an Humvee or something. They're bringing all that experience and allowing the virtual experience to become more real. We have all heard that people say, do we live in virtual reality? Are we in a matrix type of world? That is impossible to know, right? I think. But when you bring the senses to the VR, to the digital world, to that immersion, then that immersion becomes more real. When you are there and you can feel the pain. And there's an Italian company that can think of the name right now, unfortunately, but you can feel the temperature. I'm going to show all of this at virtual medicine conference in Cedar Sinai in just a few weeks. You can burn yourself in VR with these gloves, and it's a really pretty amazing what's out there.
Gingo SVR may be the name of that, but I will look it up later. But Rafael, thank you
Yeah,
so much for being here with us, with
my
me,
pleasure.
and answering all these really thoughtful, really amazing questions. I agree. I will play table tennis with you. We can smell each other remotely, but you cannot use the haptic gloves. That would be an advantage on your side, and I don't want to lose that game. So let's have that game set up very soon. For those being here with us all around, thank you so much for being here, for the support, for the amazing questions. Really, the live Q&A, of course, as usual, will be published. You will be able to access it even later. And even more importantly, you can find everything. If you don't follow Rafael Grossmann, you need to start following him now. Here is his website and his Twitter account is ZGJR. Please follow him. I also share all the VR-based, XR-based articles we have published so far on medicalfuturist.com. And not just based on this live Q&A, but based on even Rafael's responses, you can expect a lot of XR-based and related content in the near future here on the Medical Futurist channels, on YouTube, on all the social media accounts. So Rafael, thank you so much for being with me, with us. I hope you have an amazing day. Evening for us, it's a day for you. Thank you for your precious time and for being so thoughtful in answering those questions. I hope that many of the people we have here, the Medical Futurists, will hop on to your channels and start following you. I can guarantee them that they will only find excellent content on your side. So thank you very much. And also thank you so much for the viewers who've been here with us today to take part in that. We will have special guests in the near future too. And I will have these live Q&As as usual every 3 weeks. But for now, thank you. I'm very grateful to your presence and attention. Have an excellent day. Goodbye.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Rafael. Bye-bye.